Pokémon Legends ZA releases later this year, and the return to Lumiose City has me feeling nostalgic for the original Kalos games, Pokémon X and Y. Apart from the obvious jump from 2D to 3D, Gen 6's most distinguishing feature is Mega Evolution. You pop a pretty marble on your favorite little guy, and it becomes a supercharged version of itself. Just ignore the physical and mental suffering that comes with it. My favorite by far is Mega Ampharos. I've been a diehard fan of the Mareep line ever since Gen 2, and the decision to give it luscious flowing locks and a fluffy cloud tail entirely for the sake of a pun on its Japanese name is simply delightful. So I decided I wanted to sculpt one, but just making a regular statue is kinda boring. To soup things up, I'm gonna turn this Mega Ampharos into a Mega Lampharos. My plan is to have an LED in each of its red orbs so that it can be extra majestic. There is a wrinkle though. I don't think they generally recommend putting these in the oven. I won't be able to add them until my clay is baked and painted, so I'll have to get a bit creative. I need to embed these LEDs into red orbs, and I also want to make a matching Mega Stone. So using some baking beads and 2-part silicone, I make a simple mold. I secure my beads to my repurposed container with some glue tack, and stir the silicone and activator together thoroughly. Once my cursed yellow block is set, I can remove the beads and mix up some resin. I fill the cavities with a little resin, clear for the stone and tinted red for the orbs, and gently pop in the LEDs. Once the resin is set, I unmold them, and I gotta say, they turned out pretty much perfect. The Megastone, not so much. I eventually ended up making a new one off camera. The body starts out as a simple bowl of foil wrapped in clay, and once it's cured, I drill a hole through the center. The aluminium wire will later be used to help pull the cables through, but first I need to sand my gray eggplant smooth and increase the length of its neck a bit. The head's a pretty simple teardrop shape, and once I blend it into the neck, I can add a hole and snake my metal wire through. Ampharos has some pretty thin ankles, so I reinforce the legs with some metal bones. I find a pose I like, and start refining the curves and bulking up the thighs before smoothing it all out with a finger dipped in isopropyl alcohol. It gets a pair of nubby arms, and I pose them for maximum sass. I make the horns by slightly flattening balls of clay and stacking them like pancakes, and giving the tops a little twist before bending them slightly inwards. Now, I was going to show you how I started the tail by creating a hollow clay tube, then sculpted the tail on top of it, but I accidentally turned off the recording, so here's me drilling a bunch of holes into it instead. At least I can show you this part, where I enhance the fluffy factor with some strategically placed lumps of clay and smooth it all down with some more alcohol. Now comes the most difficult part, the mane. No matter what I tried, I just didn't like how it looked with the tail attached, so ended up ripping it all out. After playing around with it for a while, I landed on something that felt good and started working on some kind of accessory to hold the Megastone. I thought maybe some kind of studded collar with the stone in the center would work, but ended up scrapping it and redesigning it down the line. With my fluffy wig in place, I get to work adding more volume and blending in the seams. Once I'm satisfied with the final result, I set it aside for one final bake and get started on the base. This wooden disc is the perfect size for my base, but I need space underneath to hide the battery pack, and this foam is just the right thickness for the job. I carve out a rough circle and glue it to the base. In hindsight, there was a much simpler way to do all this, but the best ideas only come to me long after I need them, so what good are they? I fashion some large rocks out of the chunks of foam left behind from my hack job, and I get started on my terrain. Using a palette knife, I smooth some foam putty onto my base until it looks like a sad little cake with foam sprinkles. The finishing touch is a delicious chocolate sauce made of the finest rough terrain spread. And it's almost good enough to eat. After priming Ampharos white, I start shading the fur with a barely there light gray before tickling the tops with a fresh coat of matte white. After making Ampharos a masking tape shower cap, I give it a full body yellow. The tape did a pretty good job keeping the white clean, but I need to fill in all of the little gaps by hand. There's also a couple yellow spots on the white that need tidying up. Next come all the black details. But in retrospect, I should have done those first and taped them off. Yellow takes a million coats to get good coverage, white stains so easily, and I got so many black smudges on the body that I had to repaint over and over and over again. Doing the black first would have saved me so much trouble. Now that the paint is dry, I can get my LED orbs seated properly and glue them into place. I touched them up with some acrylic ink, which will keep the color vibrant without blocking the light, and a quick test shows that they light up perfectly. That's Ampharos finished, so all I have left to paint is the base. I use a hot wire cutter to smooth the sides of the base before priming it black, and airbrush the rocks with a couple shades of gray. Next, I give the ground an initial coat of muddy brown, then a more orangey brown. I go over the rocks with a very thinned out black wash. This will pool in the crevices and highlight the texture. I add some color variation to the rocks with a very thinned out white before gently blotting it off, and repeat the process with a slate blue. To create a mossy texture, I stipple on some sandy yellow, then progressively brighter shades of green. All it needs now is to touch grass. This little box uses static electricity to make diorama grass stand upright. Or maybe it's magic? Yeah, it's probably magic. With my arcane ritual complete, I finished the sides with a coat of black Mod Podge. The last thing to do is the choker. I paint it, glue it on, and mount the Mega Stone. A good dollop of UV resin adds a little extra shine. Just when you think you're done, there's always one last thing to make. I need a way to hide the ugly clump of wires coming out of its butt, so I quickly carve and painted a little rocky stool to sit on. Once I'm sure that Ampharos is securely glued in place, I connect all the wires to the battery packs, and my diva is ready for the spotlight. Welcome to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I really enjoy making these. My next project is going to be a little different, but I hope you'll tune in all the same. In the meantime, just remember, if you shove a light bulb in your mouth, you too can pretend to be a lighthouse. Can I help you, sir?